So this is RG, Canadian RG, and he's become a plantain guru. I think the plantain dish is like the symbol for the restaurant. It's the symbol for this kitchen. It's kind of a signature dish. It's the first dish that we made for the restaurant. So I think what's neat about this dish is a lot of sort of discipline and technique that's being applied to this ingredient, almost more so than any other ingredient in the kitchen, because we feel like there's almost this absolute idea of what the perfect Ikoyi plantain is. In our judgment, 13 centimeters is where perfect plantain is for this restaurant. And I think that's why it symbolizes the kitchen, because everything is done very deliberately and with a lot of intent.
I know Jeremy said 13, but it's actually 13.5 centimeters.
It's a team of serial killers in here. Just everyone's really on it.
Ideally, that's the shape that you want. From here, I'll slice them and then just lay them out.
Quite cool when you see them all like that.
So after all the plantains are shaped, we marinate them or brush them in a little bit of buttermilk. From here, after they're all marinated in the buttermilk, we toss them in the plantain flour. Just an even light coating.
You'd be surprised that a lot of people do this and it comes out pretty lumpy and clumpy. So the brushing beforehand is really important. It looks really simple, but mine are always too clumpy.
We're just gonna store these away and have them ready for service.
When people see the plantain, when you catch people in the moment of unsettling, that's when you can really push them over the edge. It's 9 a.m. in here, and we've been in here for nearly an hour now already. We're getting ready for dinner. That's the absurdity of Ikoyi. Just have a lot to do. First thing in the morning here at Ikoyi, this is a 5-month aged beef rib. Comes from Philip Warren in Cornwall. First we take the rib off the bones. It's been so nicely aged that it's just sort of become one dense substance. So it's actually quite tricky to take it off because it's so dense. It's like going to the gym breaking down these ribs. We do this first thing in the morning because we have a very small kitchen. We don't have a massive cold room. We don't have a meat prep area, a fish prep area. We don't have that much space to work with. So instead of having those luxuries, we work in a way that simulates those luxuries. So this is something we really like to do here, which I think is quite unique to Ikoyi. We actually separate all the muscles in the rib. They cook differently and they make different styles of steaks. I actually don't know sometimes whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. I just know that it works. We figure out a lot of our techniques here by common sense and by trial and error. We really prize this specific muscle here. We have a beef tartare serving. We use different parts of the animal for the tartare. These loins, they're pretty much done now. We're just going to dry them out. So this is my favorite steak that we get from the aged Philip Warren ribs. It's called the decal muscle. What I really like about it is it's so thin, it puffs up. I think that's what's interesting about the butchery that we do here is every single guest gets a different style of steak from the same rib. This beef now, we're just going to blast chill it for about an hour. This is the cat from the stabilizer rib. And we just break this down as well because usually this is put into burgers, but we take it because we use the fat. This is how we cook the beef. So we have this amazing super aged fat. So we take all of these little cubes and we make kind of an aromatic beef fat. So while we're grilling the steak, we also poach it in a bath of its own fat. It's about 10 a.m. now. The meat's had some time to dry out. As you can see, it's nice and compact. And then we're going to portion it for dinner service. So we have 30 guests tonight, and we usually do around 100 to 130 grams of meat. This is the decal muscle that we prepared earlier. You can kind of see now how beautifully dried out it is. So normally if you were to eat like a ribeye in a steakhouse, you'd have this piece and this piece would they'd be attached as one piece. So we've removed all the pieces inside so that what the guest eats is something very tender. So now the beef's ready, I'm going to give it to one of the guys in the grill section to store in his fridge. I felt that beef is one of the best representations of ingredients in this country. I kind of became obsessed with beef, and I realized that it would be quite powerful to have the restaurant centered around beef as the main source of protein. So the meat is grilled, glazed, and poached in its own fat. If you're going to come to Ikoyi, you want to have all the condiments, and all the tingling sensations and sour aspects and spicy aspects. It's 10 o'clock, we still have 8 hours until service, and there's still a lot to do. So the next thing that I'm going to prepare is the aged trout. We actually treat it quite similarly to the rib in that we break down the loin and the belly and we serve them as different cuts. We've been open 5 years. I feel like this year is the year where we've actually started to define techniques and define our knowledge. But up until now, it's been experimentation and we've done really well.
I think I only spent 3 or 4 years cooking in restaurants and I never really held a job down for very long. I found it quite difficult working in restaurants. I wanted to create something and I think that's my nature, is to create and to not follow a preset structure.
One really important aspect about the way we work is, and also this goes into the aspect of not wasting really good material. We just count everything. So if we have 30 guests, we have 30 portions of trout and everything's trayed up. Seems very obvious what I'm saying, but actually I don't think it's that normal practice in restaurants to count this specifically. Every vegetable, every portion of trout is counted, and if we get an extra guest, it actually makes it very challenging for us because we have to portion hundreds of things à la minute. Show you what's going on in here. It's a bit mad. So this is our spring green sauce, which is made with all the seasonal green vegetables we get from one of the farms we work with. This is the base for our squid ragu with Samson.
So we have 4 snacks and they're all incredibly labour intensive and intricate. We take it as a challenge. So we have the octopus, fried, confit grilled octopus, fried in wild rice with a yeast béarnaise. We have the choux, almost like a baba, like bread. It's dipped in pork fat, grilled and served with lobster and fig leaf and cucumber salad. Then you've got the Ikoyi trout tart and the aged sirloin with Kaluga caviar. So we actually freeze the rib down because we can get nice, clean, geometric cuts.
So this is our caviar coming in. It gets sent in every couple of days. So Cedric's just broken apart the grains delicately. Now he's making perfect 12-gram balls.
I just love just watching him work. It's really funny. He's really quiet and focused.
It's the Germanic hands, gentle giant, yeah.
Like our beef, we wanted to serve something like pretty epic as a main course serving for fish. For me, turbot's probably the most impressive fish to cook from the UK, and we get 1 a day. They're all aged off-site. This is Christian. He's a sous chef at Ikoyi from Jersey. He's going to prep turbot.
Yeah, I like to take it off in one fillet. Well, my dad's a fishmonger, so I've grown up doing this, I guess. So. But yeah, we used to work from like 3 a.m. until 8 a.m. just filleting, prepping big turbots, sea bass, wild sea bass, lots of local mackerel, so it's quite nice to be here where we're just really focused just on 1 or 2 fish a day. You can kind of take a lot more time with the process and make sure it's super perfect.
So it's quite nice that when guests come to eat here, they're all eating from the same rib of beef and they're all eating from the same wild turbot. It's almost like we're cooking out of a home kitchen in a way.
It's a tiny kitchen. Everything's coming in every single day. We don't have any long-term storage, so we're counting hundreds of ingredients every single day. But I think that adds to the appeal of eating here because everything is so fresh and vibrant. The chefs here have to do a lot of hands-on work every single day.
So instead of applying a lot of cure and leaving it for several hours, we apply less cure for less time, and instead of soaking the fish, we brush off the moisture that's released from the flesh. So that means you're actively drying something out. You can see like there's some excess moisture coming out of the surface of the fish. Once we brush that off, soak up that 1-2% of water content and we air dry it, creates this nice dry texture. We're just gonna portion some fish, and as you can see, it's been lightly dried out. Beautiful piece of fish, so clean. Just before service, we're going to marinate the cured fish. So it's a combination of brown butter, bene seed miso, garlic that's been confit in brown butter, a lot of like amazing aromatic spices. And so we make this beautiful paste, just pure flavor and deliciousness.
We've played a lot around with grilling and steaming and confitting, and we realized that grilling fish is like probably the best way to go for us because something about the way it forces heat into the fish just gives it that like really alive texture. We don't really rest the fish either. We just hit it with very high heat and then carve it and send it. I quite like serving it with the juices dripping and it's still kind of hot. So the dumpling, it's inspired by a traditional Nigerian dish called moin-moin.
These are the beautiful dumplings with the turbot, the
It's the turbot collar, some of the head meat. It's based on a traditional Nigerian recipe called moin, but we don't call it that because we don't want to claim that it's a traditional Nigerian dumpling called moin, so we call it a dumpling. But it is that, and that is what it's inspired by. But it is a moin, right?
It tastes exactly like a moin. Yeah.
Well, he's Nigerian and he says it's a moin, so I don't know. Samson's doing tarts and crepes. Samson, crepes, tart stuff, that's it?
Yeah.
So we're really lucky to get fresh veal sweetbreads from a region of France which specializes in Limousin veal. We brine them in a salted milk solution overnight. These ones are cooked and unskinned, so I just need to skin these and then we're going to portion them. We poach them for about 2 hours and then we press them overnight. So after pressing you get a really nice flat texture. They're actually an incredibly luxurious product and it's a piece of offal, but I think they taste like a deboned chicken wing. I'm going to get this whole pan portioned up for tonight. These are English Victoria plums. They just come into season and we make fresh plum sauce with horseradish and sour onions that go with the sweetbread. So this is just 3 minutes of blitz plenty. A lot of chefs message me and ask about our sauces and why they are so shiny and synthetic manufactured looking. And the answer is actually pretty simple. We cook the sauces in the blender. So the blender creates heat. We use a lot of blending, Once we poured the sauces, we just spread them out to get a nice surface area. And we don't seal them. We blast chill them, just so that they can become extremely cold before they get sealed. We don't have very much space in this kitchen, so this is why we have to store things in this way. It's not the most ideal way. And when you get the sweetbread, it's sort of a brightly colored, crispy nugget, but there's hundreds of ingredients that go into this plate, and I think that's it also signifies, like, the way we cook here is quite simple looking dishes, but with many, many layers that are packed in. It's kind of like being a kid and like thinking you're a magician and coming up with like a potion of some kind. There's no research, there's no testing. We just make everything for the first time and then it goes on the menu. There's no R&D development of the dishes here. They just become how they are from the excitement of putting it on the menu. People find that quite surprising that we don't test any of the dishes. I've never eaten any of the dishes at this restaurant in 5 years. Maybe it seems a bit mad, but it actually works for us. Eating my own dishes would be like remove the mystery and the fun for me. It sort of loses its excitement and it's sort of like a special quality, which is like, it's here, it's now, the plums have come in, we've made this beautiful sauce, let's serve it. In 15 minutes we're going to do the shelves. We're just going to clean some fridges and some shelves, and then at 4 o'clock we have a hard break and we go for stall food. Cleaning is like, if you can clean amazingly well, then you can cook amazingly well. Having a clean kitchen is the basis for having clean, delicious food. It's hygiene, it's organization. So if you're really good at cleaning and you can get all the fine details, your eye's going to be attuned to looking for small things. I love these little fridges. They've been good to us for 5 years. Have never broken down. I think it's good though. It's like part of our system. When you're putting these things away, to make sure we always we can take the soaked peas out. Make sure we always compact to the back as far as possible.
Yeah.
This is the only fridge we have.
It's impressive that you're able to do this with this much space.
Yeah, wait till you see the menu tonight. Like, what I mean is, like, if you see there's a gap there, make sure we have all as big as possible containers always. See, there's a gap there?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we always have. Exactly, because that's how we do it. Also, find the smallest container possible for everything. We need to put these in smaller containers. All right, let's go through today's menu. We have the octopus fried in wild rice with the yeast béarnaise, the Ikoyi made trout with husk cherries, the last husk cherries today. Can we please tell the guests that we're serving the loin and the belly, because there's a lot of work that goes into preparing that, and it's like nice detail. So we have Ikoyi made trout, a piece of the loin and a piece of the belly. Excuse me. So we've finished our staff briefing. Let's do the count, Steady. We've got 27 minutes.
Beef, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, a 3 and a 4, done. Okay, sweetbreads, you have 28 sweetbreads, 1 set.
Has anyone done the lemon bergamot? How are we looking on that? So we need to do lemon bergamot.
I haven't eaten it with everything, just nibbles. We always have spares at the end of the night. I like how bitter it is. We're just setting up for dinner. As you can see, this is where we cook all of our food. It's a very tiny space. And Samson is making the crepes. This is the beef fat that we have for service. So the beef fat starts like that, and it ends up like this. All right, we're about to open the doors. 2 guests in, 1 well done, 1 no caviar. So let's go 2 tasting into 2 tasting. Careful, careful. Okay, octopus coming up. How many fish on hold? 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by another 4. You got the 4 ready. If the fish is perfect, let's carve it on the pass. 4 beef on hold, 2 well done. 1 well done on this last 2. This is 1 well done. Too many well done orders of beef. We should probably speak to the team about discouraging people from ordering well done beef, yeah. Jones the 4 mains, 2 well done. What is it with the well done today? It really depresses me when it's well done. If you're watching this, please don't order well done.
Ikoyi started off as a project to do with sub-Saharan West African ingredients, Nigerian culture and cuisine, but very quickly it morphed out of that. We realized that our vision for true Nigerian and West African cuisine would be having a connection to the place and the land, and we're so far away from that region that I feel like we couldn't do it in good faith. We're in Britain and with so many other things here that are inspiring, so we wanted to take the best of those flavors and ideas and use them as a catalyst, as a jumping point. So I'd say that the spirit of West African and Nigerian cuisine is in our menu. It's the spice, it's the heat, it's the pungency. So we are paying respect to the ingredients, but we're trying to do our own thing, and we're not saying that what we're doing is better or enhanced in any way, it's just our own thing.
The perfect plantain is has a gap here. You see that gap? I really like making tiny gaps. Basically looks like it's touching, but it's not touching.
Ikoyi is a new concept, it's a new idea. It doesn't exist anywhere else. I think that's why people can't define it. You have to eat here and experience it. I try and stay away from these in-depth analytical discussions with guests and just serve them tasty food, because that's what it's about.